tutarudisha, na kama hatujarudisha ile heshima katika kazi yetu.
Now, to ensure climate justice and security in Africa, the continent needs to rethink governance and policies to harness Africa's renewable energy potential. This was the rallying call on the sidelines of the African Development Bank's 2024 annual meetings, which are currently happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Centre in Nairobi. Climate action remains a trigger for conflict within Africa and its communities, even as it continues to impact human security.
A lot of the conversations that have taken place to date.
As the 2024 annual meetings for the African Development Bank continue to be held at the Kenyatta International Convention Centre for the second day running, Duke's Transnational Consult, in partnership with the African Development Bank, held discussions around advancing governance to address critical security crises linked with climate change.
To pressure us to have policies
on sustainability with emphasis on human resources, experts from South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Kenya insist there needs to be a coordinated response to climate action between human resources and other resources. With Africa as the second most populous continent across the world, how then do policymakers bridge the gap between development programs that develop the planet and the continent and programs that develop the workforce?
I think human capital, I would say, and I think it's linked to the issue of education, and I also would like to remind everyone that today the African Union has called on member states to invest 15% of their national budgets on education. If that is done, we'll be able to have the human capital for the 21st century. And I think education is must, and education is also an important part of the investment we are calling for.
Well, I think in the first instance, one has to be clear about what development ends we want to achieve. And the demands of development may be generically similar over time in terms of their outcomes, but the particular entry points will differ from generation to generation. In the context, for example, of the discussions which we just had, a lot of the focus nowadays is on green development.
We do have the human potential. The rest of the world sees that and attempts to harness it, like we can see from production sites and offshore bases that multinationals have in Africa. But the question is a question of capacity enhancement, how skilled our people are, soft skills, blue-collar jobs, how prepared are we for the way the world is evolving and the needs that the age that is coming does require.
Financial resources also play part in mitigating effects of climate change. However, Professor Karuti Kanyinga, the Director, Institute of Development Studies at the University of Nairobi, has opined that there is incoherency on how the funds are to be used, as well as the policies that are supposed to impact communities. He further states that there is a lot of competition for financial resources amongst African countries, even as foreign aid plays a pivotal role in the climate battle.
To go to a situation where we can say the African communities have a way of conserving their nature, they have got a way of conserving their forests, and they conserved those forests and even nature in a manner that could not deplete resources. They knew how to conserve for themselves and the generations to come. Unfortunately, their traditional ways of governance are not being taken into consideration by some of these businesses that are coming in the name of conserving nature. And that's where the loss comes in, that communities feel completely marginalized and locked out of what they consider to be their own environment.
As the world adapts to climate situations, there is need to ensure sustainability, which can be achieved through renewable energy, biodiversity, climate-resilient agriculture, urbanization, and climate financing. Several heads of state and government are expected to attend the 5-day meeting. President William Ruto is set to participate on Wednesday in a high-level presidential dialogue. The theme is set against the realization that despite sustained economic growth over the past 2 decades, Africa's economic transformation remains a work in progress with a lot more to be done. Cynthia Nanjala, EBN TV.
Left in a very contradictory position.
Now, President William Ruto on Tuesday met